Hey everybody, so I'm here at the customer Clorox, North Lake, Texas. I get here and there's three cop cars, a tow truck, and a mobile mechanic. And the deal is, there was a driver who was backed up to one of the docks. His truck broke down, and he called the mobile mechanic. And the mechanic came out to fix his truck. And then afterwards, the driver refused to pay. So you always have to pay. You can't not pay. As this guy found out, they called. They had three cop cars here and a tow truck. He was going to get towed unless he paid. And in the end, from all appearance, it looks like he finally decided to pay. The cop cars left, and the tow truck left, and the mobile mechanic left. And he was still there. But he had one of these metro trailers, one of these plane wrapper trailers. So it leads me to believe that either he was an owner operator on the spot market, or he was driving on the spot market for an outfit that is leasing trailers, a small outfit. And what happens is that a lot of these either owner operators or these small trucking companies, they fake it until they make it, which means that they don't have the money to actually be in business and run a business. They're running on credit cards, for example. They'll go from one credit card to another credit card, and they'll max out them credit cards. And so they never have the money to pay. This is why tow truck drivers, when you call for a tow, one of the first things a tow truck driver does is ask you if you can pay, and he may even require you to pay up front before he tows your truck, because there's a lot of companies out there, they call for a tow truck and then they get towed and then they don't pay. So this is kind of a plague on the industry that these trucking companies even exist. But how can you call for a mobile mechanic? The mechanic comes out, fix your truck, and then you're not going to pay him? I mean, this is ridiculous. But this is the trucking industry. This happens all the time. It's amazing. And here you are, brand new owner operator, and you're trying to do things right, and you're sharing a road with these guys who can't even pay. They shouldn't even be on the road. So if you can't pay your bills, you can't play the game. Cash is king. This is another example of cash is king. The guy called for a mobile mechanic and he's not willing to pay the mechanic. Either he wasn't willing as the owner operator, or the company that he was driving for wasn't willing. They were going to stiff that mobile mechanic. And mobile mechanic said, no way. They called the cops. Cops arrived. Tow truck arrived. You either pay or you get towed. You might even get arrested. But these are the games that are being played out here. When you're a company driver, you don't see a lot of this. You don't know what games are going on. If you're an owner operator, you see these games being played, and the guys who are providing you the service will tell you, they've been stiffed many times, and I always assure the guys, whether it's a mobile mechanic or a tow truck, they want to know how you're going to pay, if you can pay, this, that, and the other, before they even do anything. And this is why, because there are bad actors out there who think, I don't know what country they come from, if they are American or non-American, but for some reason, wherever they come from, they think they can request a service and not pay for it. I don't know what country does that, but not here, not in the United States. I don't understand how these guys think they can get away with that. What happens is, a lot of times these guys are running on credit cards, and then they try to pay with a credit card that's already maxed out and it gets declined. And they may have 3 or 4 different credit cards, and they're all maxed out, and then they can't pay. So this is not the situation you want to be in as an owner operator. You know, you want to have plenty of cash. You never know when you're going to need it. You know, you think you got a good truck. You know, you know, anything can happen. Anything can happen with the truck, and it may not be under warranty. You know, so you always have to have that cash. Always have to have that cash. Don't rely on credit cards to run your business. You know, there could be situations where your card gets frozen, or they think there's an identity theft problem and they lock up your card, and you go to use your card to pay for a bill, and guess what? It ain't working. You know, so you know, you always got to have cash flow and cash reserve. You know, we talk about investing a lot, but you also have to have loose change to run your business. And loose change, I mean, you know, $10,000 to $20,000 sitting on the sideline, just so you can run a smooth operation. You know, and you always got to be ready. You know, you never know when you're going to need a tow truck or a mobile mechanic. You know, you never know when you're going to have a truck repair that's $10,000 or more. You just never know. It doesn't matter what year your truck is. Doesn't matter whether you maintained it or not. You know, these trucks get beat up. These roads aren't perfect, and it could be a new truck, it could be an old truck, but it's going to happen to every single owner operator. And when you call these guys out for help, you're the one calling for help, you know, and typically they'll give you an estimate, and you'll have to sign that you agree to pay. There's no getting out of paying. There's no getting out of paying. As this guy found out, you don't pay, guess what? Cops show up and a tow truck shows up, and then you're gonna have a one last chance before the cops haul you away. You know, they're gonna say, okay, you know, try to work with you, you know, but here's the deal: you either pay this guy that did the work, or we're towing your truck. It's up to you. You don't want to be in that position. Always make sure you got the money. Don't ask for help if you don't have the money. You know, because you don't want to talk to the cops. I tell you that. You know, it ain't worth it. Um, you're gonna play this game. You know, the game of being owner operator. You gotta afford to play the game. If you can't afford to play the game, don't even try it. Don't try to fake it till you make it either. Don't try to run it on credit cards. It's not a good strategy. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the internet.